Ed O'Keefe, and today I'm going to show you a quick little thing I've been working on called closing the meaning gap. Now, having been an entrepreneur for 17 years now, having had some successes, having had many failures, and now evolving into like being a family man, someone who's had an opportunity to accumulate some things, succeed at some businesses, and transition to multiple businesses. The main focus of my life right now is to do things that bring massive fulfillment, continually inspire me, as well as making the money that I want to make. You know, there's no reason those things can't be the same. And what I want to walk you through is just this concept that I've kind of put together called closing the meaning gap. And it kind of starts with there's three different gaps I want to talk about. And because one of the things I noticed is that so many people in my mind, when I observe, feel like they're always chasing, that there's always something better out there, that they're doing things to sacrifice. Necessarily they don't want to be doing what they're doing, but they're doing it because they feel like they have to. And right now, I feel like we live in a day and age where if you really want to do something that you're passionate about, or if you feel like you have a calling, or you want to write the book, or you want to do the coaching club, or you want to create the product, or you want to do it, there's really not much stopping you. But the opposite of that is that there's really not always going to, since it's something that's in your mind and your heart and your vision, there's not somebody, like no one's going to come along and give you permission at the same time. Does that make sense? So let me walk you through a couple concepts that I think will really, hopefully, it'll help me talk through them, but also hopefully it'll create a lot of value for you, okay? So there's three gaps in life, and let me walk you through the first one. The first one is what I call like, I am here, I'm not there. Referring to this up here, right? This is usually the first, like for me anyhow, like every time I've gone out to set a goal, it's usually because I'm here and I'm not there. Like it's normal, right? It's not a bad thing at all. It's just how we process things. We see that there's something out there that we want, and we want to get it. And usually when we see that, there's a couple things that happen. And I'm going to try to organize it in a sequential fashion for you. But one, you feel frustrated. Like it might be exciting, but then there's a frustration because you're not there. And then what comes along with that as well is a confusion. Those emotional states are totally misunderstood because they're actually two of the most powerful emotional states for creating something magical or going out and having the motivation. That, like, motivation doesn't come out of nowhere. I mean, these emotional states cause a couple things. One being curiosity, motivation, and then the third one is desire. Okay? So curiosity, you start going like, well, how do I get there? How did they do that? Where did they learn that? Who could teach me that? All those kind of questions are what starts the creative process, right? And then motivation is now I know what I want to go towards, so I get moving. And now I have a desire to go do it. Now, the big thing that like kind of separates achievers versus non-achievers is what happens kind of next is like there's like a this is what sparks action, right? The problem is that there's also something else that comes off this, which is the majority of the population. Again, not judging, just kind of, most people go like, well, I don't know how to do that, so I don't know where to start. I don't know. There's so many I don't knows, so much uncertainty that inaction and paralysis happens. And then the justification is like, well, someday I'll do that. Someday I'll have time. Sometimes, someday, you know, like every justification will pop off and it'll get pushed out into the future, right? And so what I want to walk you through is just a simple thing that happens here is that, so let's just take this back off and process this out to what I call like pick and pack, right? So you got curiosity, motivation, and desire, and they spawn off into either action or most often inaction. And the thing that is the difference here is kind of what I said was there's usually justification pops in here. Some of it might be accurate. So if I see like a pro athlete who's doing like, say, like I admire like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I admire those things, and if I go train with like the high level guys because I'm curious and I'm motivated and I have desire, but then after training with them I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to be at this level. That's okay. Maybe I reframe my goals and I don't shoot way up here. Maybe I just be a hobbyist. That's not a bad thing. But most justifications are inaccurate. They're in someday I'll land, okay? So then most action then, if we look at the study of action and you flip into action and you go like, well, what do I do? And you apply what I call the success system. I write about this extensively in Time Collapsing. Like this literally is my entire belief system about success and the actual tactical strategies of setting goals, mindset, and stuff like that. Okay? So the thing is that, I'm just looking at my notes here because I want to make sure I'm doing this right, is that if this creates desire, now the desire I want is, use a different marker, I want something that is what I call pick. I'm passionate about, inspires me, and creates confidence. That's where I want to be, right? I want this I'm not there yet thing to have those three effects on me. And while some people say like, well, or no, clarity is actually where I want to go there, sorry. Clarity. So if I'm passionate, I'm inspired, and I have clarity, taking action is actually really easy, isn't it? Most people don't hit their goals because they don't have clarity, right? It's just truth. It's like, well, I don't know where to start. So the process of moving forward creates confusion, creates overwhelm, right? And so but you want these effects. If you don't gain clarity, then what's really, really hard is that the backbone of clarity is confidence. Well, the secret to confidence is actually having success at something, right? So I have confidence of going for this I'm not there yet goal because I've done other things in my life that I've been confused about, I've been overwhelmed about, I've been frustrated about, but I didn't let it stop me. I went out, got mentors, set my goals, and I chipped away at the thing. So that creates confidence, which means anytime I am confused or overwhelmed, it's not a problem because I'm used to that. Does that make sense? So that creates confidence. Confidence then creates a sense of, where's my confidence at? So let me just use a different pen. I'll use the brown one, which that's probably not the best. If I have these things and I have confidence with clarity, I can then experience certainty. Okay? That'll be called certainty right there. This allows me to boldly dive into my success system. All these attributes here, right? Passion, inspires, I got clarity, I got confidence, I have certainty, and therefore I go forward in it. Are you with me? Nod your head, yes. Okay, cool. But here's the big thing. Here's the big thing, and this is the big hiccup, and this is why I call this a I'm I'm not there yet gap is that usually you don't know the path. You think you may have an idea of the path. And usually you don't know for certain, even if you take the risk, if you are going to accomplish the goal. So there is no such thing as certainty. There's uncertainty. Okay? And most people fear uncertainty more than anything in their entire life, because I might be embarrassed, I may not achieve it, what happens if I fail, I'm not good enough trap. There's so many like little traps right there that will stop you and paralyze you from taking the first step, the second step, and the third step, right? So all of these come down to what happens in this space right here. And it's a simple word, you've heard it before, and that is courage. Courage and confidence are two totally different things. Confidence is taking action on a past referential success and experience, knowing that I've done good in the past and I've projected it forward and I can do it again. Courage is when you take a step forward and you take action despite the fact that you have no certainty, there's lack of clarity. Everybody talks about like the number one step of setting a goal is clarity, right? Well, if you read in my book, I kind of smash that a little bit, and I talk about the power of directional pull, because if the first step of the goal, the most important step of the goal is having clarity, but I don't have clarity, then how can I even start the process of moving forward on my goal? And in my experience, even around the highest level achieving entrepreneurs and highest level achieving athletes, art, musicians, nobody's freaking clear. They're all evolving through this process, which I'm discussing right now, called the gaps of life, right? And so they're always looking for new things, because they're always, as they get to one place, they're not there at the next place. And it's there's some differences in how they evaluate it than most people, which allows them to keep happily moving forward. And so that is the I'm not there yet gap. And it takes a lot of courage, okay? Now, there's a system of going through this that we're not going to talk fully about it today. If you like what I'm doing here today, put a comment in there, share it, like it. I'm really just testing to see if people like it, right? But if you do, let me know, because I'll do more of this stuff, right? So this then usually moves into this thing. So this is, if I learn this system here of going, I'm not here, I'm not there, but I can get there, and I start learning that process, then we move into what's called the achiever's gap, which is right here, okay? I'm going to be very short on this, and here's why. Dan Sullivan talks about this in his like little audio program called The Gap. And he says, most entrepreneurs and most successful people end up getting really good at setting goals. So let's say this is goal 1, and achieving the goal. And most of them, high achievers, it's kind of like high achiever syndrome, are already looking at their next goal and their next goal. And the eyes of the person are always forward. So what happens is they are always not there. Yeah. No matter what happens in their life, they never make it, because they have not learned a simple system of stepping back, looking back into their future, like looking back here in their past, and seeing all the achievements they've done and feeling good about them and carrying these things forward as they go. So what happens is that you see a lot of people who, despite their success, despite their qualities, despite where they've come from, failures alike and mistakes alike, They're always chasing the next thing because they're always future focused, which our society pats you on the back like you should be. You should go accumulate more. You should go get better grades. You should go get better titles. You should go get better businesses. You should how's your revenue? Like that's a question people ask. How many employees do you have? How much do you work? You know, like all those big quantifiable, non-relevant things get added to our life as if they're supposed to be, and they get projected onto us. Like, this is how I measure success, right? And anyone who's been in either of these positions know that a lot, if you believe all that stuff, you end up having a life that is always chronically frustrated, always chronically overwhelmed, always chronically confusing, because you're always moving to somewhere where you're not at. It's a very sad life. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs right now talking about hustling and grinding and working 12 to 14 hours a day, and this is your moment to do it, so go. Well, that's cool, I guess, but it's not cool if that doesn't feel right. It's probably because you have values that like me personally, I like being with my kids while they're children. I'm not going to push that off into the future and hopefully they're going to be around, you know? Like, that's just not, there's alignment on that. We do an exercise around that. But I think a lot of guys have this kind of messed up. So when you move through this, you end up in what I call the meaning gap. This is kind of what I want to talk about today, because so you've learned how to accomplish things. Let me get through here. And then on this photo here, what we have is the meaning gap. And at this point in life, conceptually, you have a house, you've learned how to make money, you have the wife. There's my wife. I erased her from the equation. She'll really like that. You have the kids. I have a few more kids than that, and I wouldn't want to impose 4 more children onto your lives, but they're in my life. And maybe you got a dog, or maybe you don't, and that's totally cool, okay? It's totally cool. My point there is that you're working through some of these other areas, and then you wake up here, and so for me, well, I'll get to this later, but this is the place in life where you may have a successful business, or you've been successful at stuff, and you're sitting there and you're going well, why am I doing this? And your why seems a little elusive. It seems like you can't pin it down. And what happens a lot is usually, for my case, for example, in the first gap I experienced was 23 to 27, when I didn't have any money and I was out on my own. I had my nursing degree and I was setting out to be an entrepreneur, and I thought if I set my goals, if I did everything all these books are telling me and all these motivational speakers are telling me, I would make money. And then a year went by and I still was broke, and then another year went by and I was still living in my parents' basement, and then another year went by and I was now bartending because I needed some cash. And so all those years of failing as an entrepreneur, something had to change, right? That was very, very hard. But at that time, my motivation and my curiosity and my desire was just, I needed to figure out how to make money. And I was willing to do almost anything it took. Now, I was lucky because I stumbled across the skill sets of direct response marketing, which is still what I utilize today, what we do today in our businesses to attract customers, get customers, and keep customers, and sell products and services and coaching, all those things. But at that time, my motivation was very much like on Maslow's hierarchy. I was just trying to put food on my table, money in my bank account, be able to pay rent, which I wasn't even paying rent at that time. I was coaching volleyball. I was trading off, my coaching for rent money. That's how I was doing it, and that was then, right? So then you go through this and you learn these skill sets, and this is something that if you don't, this is like an ongoing life skill. Like they say, most Olympians, most high performing athletes, Like we just did Hell on the Hill this past weekend, and I will tell you, after accomplishing that and being around such amazing people, 2 days later, 3 days later, I felt the letdown. Like, oh my God, I'm back home, back to real world, and even though we accomplished it, that high kind of disappears, and it goes further in your future. So we got to set a goal. But we got to stay positive on it as well. So, but here's the meaning gap, right? And so the reason I want to talk about the meaning gap, and something I'm really passionate about now, is that I honestly, wholeheartedly believe, and I think this is only going to accelerate over the next few years, is that, I'm going to delete this, okay? So, this will be real easy. Oh, it's not working, so I'm deleting it. Okay. My belief is that you are in this new world called transparency economy. You are in a new world called the transparency economy, which means that if you have a product or service over here that is good to great, your ability to get it to a mass movement type level people has never been easier. You got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and their ability to spread through paid advertising, influencers, any of those things has never been better for you, right? And so the question is that you got to start asking, like, well, what really is something that I could get to do that's going to give me massive amounts of meaning? What do I really want to do that's going to make me feel happy, motivated, joyful, even if I have to go through the frustrating grind of making something and putting it out there, right? And taking those risks. What am I willing to do, right? I should say, and then the next question is, like, what do you need to do to make this awesome? And then I would say, why are you doing anything else? And you're going to say, well, Ed, because I have to right now. And I'll say, okay, that's cool. That's totally cool. I get it. I totally get it. But that can't stop you from at least beginning the process of, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm only here. But I could start getting curious and frustrated and start moving towards that, okay? So one thing I want to share with you is, as you move from this to this, there's only a couple skill sets that you actually need to know, okay? Like right now, as I'm creating this video, I have Sarah, who works with me, holding my phone, and it was just this kind of a spontaneous thing, right? So I will bet that hundreds of people at least view this, and whatever, whether they like it or not, it doesn't really matter. But back when I was when we were selling marketing services to dentists, I would have paid a lot of money, get on a flight, go to a seminar, and speak to a room of 20 dentists and hope to make 3 sales, right? If you're in the health and fitness business, or if you're an expert of any kind, and you're like, well, not enough people know who I am yet. Well, let's just fix the problem, because you have a camera, somebody has a camera, you have a message, map it out on a piece of paper, do a video, and then use basic level, paid advertising. I recommend you go to Facebook first. There's a million courses out there, and there's free stuff on YouTube. You can get these free courses left and right. So the first skill set is, well, I need to learn how to talk on YouTube. Or no, not YouTube. I need to know how to talk on video. And then I need to know how to do paid advertising. And maybe I need to know how to get my product together, whether it's supplements, whether it's a book, whether it's whatever it might be, coaching, consulting. Maybe that is your product, you know, coaching, whatever. You're selling widgets. I mean, think about it this way. Think about it this way. Home Shopping Network and the infomercial companies spend millions and millions of dollars to put these things together when you have the same access to the same media platforms that they do, but now they're free for you. So this is where it's going. And so, I don't know, I think the closer you can get in your life where keep dropping the markers. I think the closer you can get in your life to, because we already know that I'm not there yet. It's always going to be there. I think your brain is we need that for survival. We need that to keep going. We need that to create motivation. There's no milk in the fridge. Well, if you need milk, if you like milk, it's not there yet. You gotta go get it, right? The difference is you can go to Amazon Prime and have it delivered in like 3 hours. So I should use a better example. I should be like, there's no foods, waffles in your fridge. Go do that. This is going to be there. So you're gonna always have confusion, frustration, and that cycle is always going to be there. Here's why. You are always evolving. Does that make sense? So if you're always evolving, you're going to start going through all three gaps all the time. So my challenge today is for you to do, I'll give you 2 exercises, right? One, well, the challenge is, the closer you can make this journey be filled with meaning, purpose, and fulfillment while making massive impact, my belief is happiness, peace of mind, and the money will follow this. Now, I'm not one of those guys that will say, hey, you know what, if you just do what you love, money will follow. I think you need to map it out. I think you need to understand a business model. I think you need to know the math behind what you're trying to do. I do believe you need to know the market. But you know what? If you're really curious and if you're really passionate, why not learn all that stuff? It's not impossible. I mean, my God, there's been millions of people before you that have learned it. Why wouldn't you? I mean, just pick up my book. I go through a ton of that stuff, right? So that's number 1. So number 2 is, I want you to do a knee-jerk response, okay? A knee-jerk response is that if you took a little matrix and you wrote, here's my magical, like my magic wand wish list. And you just start writing it out that you would love to do. Just let it out. You have no limitations. It doesn't have to be right. You don't have to go do it. You don't have to do anything. No confidence and no courage is required for this exercise, okay? And then number 2, I want you to do this. I was gonna split that up, but we're in a hurry, so I want you to write out a list of all the things that are irritating you or causing any amount of friction in your life right now. Magic wand list, anything is possible. If you have not yet checked out, you know what's really helpful? I'll tell you, like, we have this one exercise that we do with our coaching club members called the Freedom Question. It's in chapter 4 of this. I will see if I can upload a video for you because we do have it on video as well. or just pick up the book. Either way, the freedom question is very, very helpful with this. There's 3 questions, but the first one I'll just give it to you is, wouldn't it be great if? Wouldn't it be great if? And you just start go through every area of your life about the freedom question. Wouldn't it be great if my health was here? Wouldn't it be great if our revenue was here? Wouldn't it be great if our house was like this? Wouldn't it be great if my kids had confidence, believed in themselves, had kind friends, had a private tutor, had whatever those things might be? This is where you start laying this stuff out. And then if you have something in your heart that you're like, this is what I would like to create, this is where you write it out. And you gotta do it, man. Like this is my journal. This is what I write all my stuff in. So I'll just ramble. I wake up with ideas, I go to bed with ideas, I put it all here. 90% of the things I write down, we never take action on. It's okay, but it's part of the stuff, it's part of the process and the journey. And if the things that the good stuff keeps coming back to you, maybe you need to start taking some action on it, do more research on it. And the irritation and the friction list, this is where I talk about, in time collapsing, for example, I talk a lot about the fastest way to move faster. And the fastest way, some people go well, I want to feel happier. Well, sometimes the best way to feel happier is you remove all the things that are causing the problems from your life. You start removing those frictions, and they're usually in the terms of what I do on a daily basis, the relationships I'm in, my health, my energy, my mental state, how I'm acting. I don't have any goals, all those things. There's only so many patterns of I'm not happy, or I'm not fulfilled, or I'm not. Lay it out there, because if you don't define what's holding you back, you'll never know specifically. Everything. Most people are afraid to write things out because they're well, I don't have a solution for it. Well, of course you don't, because you haven't written it out yet. And something magical happens. You write it out, and now you're saying, okay, there it is, clear as day. It's time to handle it. But until you handle it, or at least write it out or lay it out, then there's no way you could take action on it. Okay. So cool. This is part 1 of the Meaning Gap by myself, Ed O'Keefe. If you like it, please leave a comment. What other questions do you have? I will do a part 2. I will do a part 3. I'm just, I have nothing to sell. Just want to share this with you. And that's it. What should I say, Sarah?
See you next time for part 2.
See you next time for part 2. Peace out.